there's a lot of different definitions of birth trauma. Trauma is really relative. So it really depends on the person and what they have experienced in the past and what they're currently experiencing, kind of just where their resilience is. So essentially, my definition of birth trauma is just any experience around pregnancy, birth, or postpartum that made you feel uneasy, made you feel like you couldn't speak up, made you feel like you didn't have that voice, that you weren't the one leading the conversation, and that things were done to you instead of for you. So any of those sorts of feelings that you have around like, oh, I didn't really like that, or what happened was really, really terrible, or like I had this quote emergency C-section, or I had blood transfusion needed. Like it's really this broad definition.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about what some of you hopefully you haven't, but some of you may have experienced when it came to becoming a mom or even adding kids into your life, and that is birth trauma. I thought that birth trauma was only a specific experience, and after talking to several birth professionals, I realized that I likely experienced birth trauma with my first bio son. So here I have Brigid Tebaldi, who is a functional women's health coach and mentor. And I'm going to have her introduce herself and let us know where she's from, how old her kids are, and how she got started helping women with their birth experiences.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here.
So I'm Brigid, and I live in Western Pennsylvania in a small little Amish town. I am not Amish. I get asked that sometimes.
I was about to ask you.
Nope, not Amish. We just live here. And so we did live in an Amish house for a year, which that was interesting, but that's a whole nother story. I have 5 little ones ranging from almost 9 years old down to almost a year old. So they're 2 years apart. 1 girl and 4 boys. And yeah, I help moms to reclaim their peace, gain clarity, and just understanding of what happened during their birth, not even just their birth experiences, but their pregnancy, their birth, and their postpartum experiences, so that they really can find peace and understanding and move into the next stage of their life, whether that is having more children or even just not having any other children. Peace is the biggest thing that people come to me and really desire.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but when you get pregnant, you hear all these stories about how great it is and how your body's growing a baby, your hair looks awesome, your skin is glowing, everybody's paying so much attention to you, but not everyone's experience with pregnancy goes the same way. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, I had a pretty uneventful pregnancy, and with the birthing process, it was truly the delivery that I experienced. It wasn't even complications per se, but I didn't have the best OB for my son. And now that I have had 2 births, I now know like that was truly not a great experience compared to my second one, which I had a different OB. But I know that there's different kinds of birth traumas, like different reasons why that exists, from maybe your body responding in a way that was unexpected to someone not handling your pregnancy or delivery in the right way, where it's like respectful, consenting, and all that. And so can you dive into what exactly is birth trauma and why it's so important to you to help women with this?
Yeah, so There's a lot of different definitions of birth trauma. I'm going to try to simplify it a little bit because trauma is really relative. So it really depends on the person and what they have experienced in the past and what they're currently experiencing, kind of just where their resilience is. So essentially, my definition of birth trauma is just any experience around pregnancy, birth, or postpartum that made you feel uneasy, made you feel like you couldn't speak up, made you feel like you didn't have that voice, that you weren't the one leading the conversation, and that things were done to you instead of for you. So, any of those sorts of feelings that you have around, like, oh, I didn't really like that, or what happened was really, really terrible, or like I had this quote emergency C-section, or I had blood transfusion needed. Like, it's really this broad definition. So I don't love to put it in a box of like, you have to have had an emergency surgery with transfusion and like all this other stuff, because again, it's really is dependent on what the woman experiences. And how she, again, where she is coming into that experience is also super important.
Yeah. So why is this important to you to turn this into your business in supporting women navigating through this? What is your story and what are the connections that you have that bring you into this, like, I guess, calling or purpose?
Yeah. So I have 5 kids, and I was one of those typical women who went into my first pregnancy with like, I literally didn't read a book. I didn't listen to any podcasts. I didn't do any courses. Like, I was just like, no, I'm going to go in there and everything's going to be fine. And by the grace of God, it was fine-ish, and everything was good. And then after I had my second baby, though, again, went in with that same mentality. But whenever I was pregnant with him, things started going off the rails like a little bit, nothing crazy, but just my body was trying to speak to me, and I wasn't listening yet. And so I had somewhat of a precipitous labor, which that just means that it happened very fast, which in some women think that sounds amazing, but it can be really challenging because it doesn't give you a lot of time. So we had to figure out what to do with, like, to get our daughter to the place she was going to be. We had to figure out, I was still birthing at the hospital at this point. So I had to figure out how to get to the hospital in time. And basically after his birth, I was fine. Everything was good. But about 5 or 6 hours later, I was totally fine nursing him. And all of a sudden, I just had this like massive amount of blood all over me. And so it was really alarming because it's like nobody knew what was happening. All the nurses, all the doctors rushed in. There were codes being called. It was really scary. Again, nobody knew what was happening. They thought it was my uterus. It was not my uterus. I ended up needing emergency surgery, had a transfusion, all the things going on. And after that experience, it was really just nobody would tell me what happened. And I would ask what happened, and I would be asking for help, the like little postpartum depression checklist, fill it out whenever you go to the doctor. And I knew that I was filling it out in a way that was like screaming for help. But even when I handed it to them, like nobody helped. So I just really internalized that of like, well, something's wrong with me. Like maybe it's not as bad as I'm thinking it is. Like all these different thoughts in my head. Like maybe I'm just not strong enough for this. I'm not a good mom. Like, again, something's wrong with me. I did something wrong. Not worthy of help. All of those different thoughts and feelings. And I remember like Googling and being like, I think I need therapy, but like, I don't know if I need therapy. Like, I feel like I need help, but I don't think I need help. Like, I was just had so much confusion around the whole situation because I was really scared to sleep because I was afraid I was going to bleed to death. I was scared to like go up and down stairs because I was afraid I was going to faint because I had the blood loss, like all these different things happening. And so it took me about probably 1.5 years, almost 2 years until our next baby was born to really figure out a way out of it. And even after that third baby was born, I still had a lot of fear. And it wasn't until actually after my fourth was born that now I'm in a place where it's like, I don't have any fear around it anymore. And my last birth was like amazing. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. It was just exactly what I wanted, and nobody was telling me what to do. And I just felt so confident in myself. And so that's really where this business comes from. This ministry that I have is really to help moms who have experienced any of these feelings to understand that it's not their fault and that they can heal those things. And what's even more, like once you get into my program and get a little deeper, is that we focus on the birth to start with, but there's so much more than that. There's all of your past experiences, all of your experiences with your own parents, with being a people pleaser, any of those sorts of ideas. Those all come up in your birth. And until you can heal those experiences, they're just going to keep coming up, whether you have more kids or whatever the situation is in your motherhood. So helping women to heal not only their birth story, but healing those past wounds that they have as well, so that they can really step into this place of peace, understanding, and confidence in the woman who they're designed to be.
I cannot believe that they didn't tell you what happened.
It took a long time. Yeah, I remember because I had like packing and stuff up there, and she was like pulling it out, and I was like, "What exactly happened that you needed to put like feet of packing inside of me?" And she was like, "Oh, you don't want to know."
But I do.
I know, but I do want to know. And I think a lot of that came from her trying to be very kind and like making sure that I was protective.
Yeah.
But I did want to know because especially because I wanted more kids. It was like, is it going to happen again?
Right.
And it's what happened is incredibly rare. I essentially had a vaginal wall artery tear.
Okay.
That formed a hematoma. So I wasn't bleeding like externally for a few hours, and I just thought, whatever.
Yeah.
And then that hematoma burst, and blood was everywhere. So then they had to go in and cauterize the artery.
Yeah.
But again, at first, they didn't know what was happening because it's super rare, like very, very rare that it happens. And so I think that was also part of it too, is them trying to be kind, but also them not really understanding what happened.
Sure. Wow. Yeah, for me, with my first birth, so I'm a mom of 3, but my first child is my stepson. So obviously I didn't give birth to him. And my son that I gave birth to, who's like almost 9 now, when I gave birth to him, I ended up having back labor, which was like super uncomfortable. That means that like his back of his head was facing my spine. So every time I had a contraction, I had bone on bone, and it was very painful. And I didn't have any pain meds. Like I didn't get an epidural or anything. And when it was time to give birth, the OB comes in. Like she wasn't there earlier. She was just there for the pushing part.
Yeah.
And looking back, it only took me 20 minutes to push him out, which is not long for my first birth. Mm-hmm. And she looked bored and annoyed the entire time I was pushing. And like as if I was like keeping her from something. So that was one, like in itself, not a really great experience.
Yeah.
Because she had like 0 bedside manner. She wasn't encouraging. She wasn't anything. She was just telling me when to push. It was truly the nurses who kind of just like saved my experience. And then after my son came out, I see her raise a hook into the sky, or not the sky, but like into the air. And I was like, oh, did I tear? And she's like, no, I cut you. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't ask for that. You didn't ask me for that.
Yeah.
And so I was pissed.
Well, yeah.
But I didn't know what to say because I'm like, well, it's already done. What am I going to do about it? You know, like, I'm not going to like sue you. But I was not happy that, like, I understand if there were complications and you think that that would help it. But it truly felt like because of her demeanor the entire time I was delivering him was like bored and annoyed that she just wanted to do what she needed to do to get out as soon as possible. So I was like very upset that she took that choice away from me. Like in the end, like I'm okay, but still like that's not okay at all.
No.
And so that was just like really upsetting because she didn't coach me. She didn't like try and stretch me in ways to help support him coming out. And you know, honestly, I don't think I would have had a hard time pushing him out. Maybe it would have been a little bit longer had she not cut me, but like, come on, you couldn't wait to see. And so that to me, like, I didn't initially think that was birth trauma because it seems so minor compared to other possible experiences that people have. But I love that you define birth trauma as subjective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
me getting picked on as a little kid could be no big deal to me, but could be a super big deal to someone else and alter how they experience life going forward, or vice versa. And so when I had my daughter, I was very adamant. I was like, okay, like I had birth plans for both of them, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but with my daughter, I was like, okay, if you feel like you need to cut me, please ask me. Like I was just very adamant about having that process in place so that I wouldn't experience that again. But thankfully, I got a really great OB who is like, stretching me and helping me prep for it whenever it was time to push. And she was like communicating with me the whole time. And I was like, wow, this is like a very redeeming experience. And thank
Yeah.
goodness, because I can't even I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if
Well,
I had another bad experience.
even the fact that you had the birth plans, which I can go in a whole rabbit hole about that. Um, but even the fact that you said and these might not be verbatim what you said, but the idea is that please ask me.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even have to. First off, even if you said that, you should not even have to say please. That should
Yeah.
be you need to ask me.
Yeah.
And that should be normal and a clear boundary that should
Yeah.
be respected. But the fact that women feel like they need to say, again, being polite is one thing, but saying please ask me before you do this, it shouldn't even need to be polite. That should be from the practitioner's point of view, being polite to ask in general.
Right. Right.
So the fact that you even feel like you need to do say women in general feel like they
Yeah.
need to be polite and to make other people feel good about the situation, I think is one of the big things that we need to change
Yeah.
about birth and womanhood in general. Again, I'm not saying don't be polite. I'm saying we need to be respected and to respect ourselves too.
Absolutely.
And I know you said your baby was posterior or sunny side up. And so, question for you,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. So, did you happen to feel any of these things? Because this is something that's really interesting to think about. A baby in the posterior position may indicate that were you resisting birth or the change that would come about from having a baby?
I don't think so.
And then, if you had any tension or fear around the birth or even just motherhood in general.
I think I was scared of the birth
Mm-hmm.
just because it was hurting so much
Yeah.
from his head hitting
Yeah.
my spine.
Well, and then, so another one is that did you feel unsupported or like you were a burden in that room?
No, not at the time. Not until the doctor showed up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So
But
all of
but when I
those,
was in labor though, I didn't feel that way. The nurses were fantastic.
yeah, that's great. And so I just wanted to bring it up because a lot of times whenever there's this idea that whenever a baby is posterior or sunny side up, it's their way of trying to protect you
Uh-huh.
and to help you kind of resist get over that fear that you might have, whether that be a
Interesting.
logical fear or whether that
Yeah.
just be your body fear, your body not confident. And so just bringing that up.
I don't know. I mean, it's been so long. I mean, he was planned and I definitely wanted him.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe just because it was a second child, so it's how is life going to be? But other than that, I don't know that there were any other fears.
No, and those little ones do add up too, and especially in
Yeah.
our culture where women aren't taught what birth can look like, and we're kind of taught that it's screaming on the TV and
Yes.
it's really scary and not we're not in control, and so our bodies do know that and
Yeah.
internalize that too.
Yeah. So I used to be a yoga teacher, and I think that actually helped me because
Yeah.
I had a former yoga teacher who ran prenatal workshops for couples. And so
Yeah,
we
that's
took her workshop and she taught us ways that my husband could support me throughout the labor process to make me feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And so he knew what to apply pressure to whenever I did have contractions. And I also learned that surrendering through the contraction is the best possible way to reduce the discomfort, is because when you're fighting it,
Yes.
that's when it feels even more uncomfortable. So then I would just like let go and kind of let the wave wash over me.
Yeah.
But it was still really painful. But anyway, because I didn't sleep either, because I went to the hospital at like 2 a.m, and so I didn't sleep that whole day.
Yeah.
Because I was laboring starting around what I would have gone to bed, and just waiting for it to be time to like go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So that didn't help. And then there was, I guess, a minor scare, because when I went to the hospital, they're like, oh, you are nowhere near dilated, which was very frustrating to hear because my body was having contractions regularly. But then when they put the heart monitor on my belly to check on him, his heart rate would drop anytime I had a contraction. So they had to keep me there until I was like fully dilated. Which was only like several hours, but at the time I had no idea how long I would be there, because I was like, what? I thought I would be able to go home or at least walk around, but I have to stay on this bed. So that wasn't the best. So yeah, like you said, it probably was all those little things, but I think he was facing that way for a while, because I would kind of like poke at my belly throughout the pregnancy when he was big enough to see like, what is this? I'm like, I'm pretty sure that these are his knees because I can go through it. And so that means his head is facing my spine, and that's not what I want.
Yeah, there's so much that can go into it. Again, it doesn't even just have to be around like the pregnancy and the birth. It can be like other past things that your body's holding on to that until maybe maybe you bring those to the surface.
Yeah.
That your body just like holds on to them. And it's a good way of trying to protect you.
Sure.
And your like baby's also trying to work with you to protect you and to protect themselves. But yeah, it's just this idea that we need to really like bring all of that as much as we can to the surface beforehand.
Yeah.
So that we can at least set ourselves up to have the best pregnancy, birth, and postpartum that we possibly can.
Yeah. No, that's a very interesting take on it, because when I had my daughter, when I was pregnant with her, that year alone, I had done a lot of personal work. And
it's huge.
She was born like super fast labor again, but no cutting required, or not required, but done. Done to me. And let's see. So I went to the hospital around 1, got checked in, used the bathroom, and immediately, as soon as I sat down to pee, she was coming. Like, that feeling where it's like, it feels like you have to poo, but you're not actually having to poo. So I flung the door open so fast. I was like, she's coming. And so then all these nurses rush in and they're like, mother has a history of fast deliveries. Call the doctor. Because I guess she was home sleeping.
Wow.
And so she got there and she was born at 2:02 a.m. And like, that was a pretty easy birth. Like, I delivered in 10 minutes, but her arm was like this, just one arm. And so it was a little wider than normal, but she came out, and yeah, I really, and she wasn't sunny side up. So I'm very curious about that.
But like you said, you did a lot of personal work.
A lot.
Yeah. And that makes a big difference. And even just trusting yourself.
Yes.
Like, not even around birth, but just in general, like having that trust within yourself that you like,
like I've done this before. I can do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how are people generally affected by birth trauma? Like, what have you seen in your clients? How has that affected their daily lives, or even approaches towards adding to their family? And what are ways for them to reclaim that part of their story? Because I know that could really feel like a loss of control and a loss of agency. So what have you supported your clients through, or even your own personal experiences that you can share with us?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I see with working with women is that they have a loss of trust within themselves, whether that be that they don't trust their body anymore, especially after a challenging birth. Breastfeeding can be really hard.
Oh,
And then that
yes.
makes them feel even more like something's wrong with me, or like I'm not good enough, or that my body's failing me. Um, and with that too, even down the line, even further, like how it affects trusting your own instincts. So I'm thinking of this one client in particular. Her baby's a little over a year now, and she's pregnant, and she is so scared of like how is she can, and she co-sleeps with her son, and so she's so scared of like, do I need to sleep train him? Everybody's telling me I need to sleep train him, but my body's and like my mind is saying like no. And so it's this like internal like struggle that she's having where it's like her body and her mind are saying one thing, and then all of this external world is telling her another thing. And so it's a matter of her really figuring out what is it that she wants to do and kind of canceling out the noise. So we're working on like strategies around that. But that's probably the biggest thing, is just that loss of trust in themselves, in their bodies, in their minds, in their intuition. And then just even more than that, a big one is like snapping at their kids. So basically it comes down to, or even their husbands or anybody really, nervous system dysregulation is really big. And again, it's your body's way of trying to protect you and trying to control the environment. But as moms, you know that like you really can't control anything. Like we can attempt to set ourselves up in a way that like helps a little bit, or at least gives it structure, but we really can't control anything. And then whenever you add that desire for control on top of this trauma that you have, it really, and your lifestyle's not conducive to supporting calm and peace, your nervous system's going to be shot. And that shows up in, again, a variety of ways. Physically, that can be like the hair loss, the weight gain, acne, any of those sorts of things. Emotionally, it can be like snapping at your kids, feeling, in really severe cases, like dissociative almost, like looking down at yourself instead of being in your body. Um, and then just relationship wise, everything that comes from that. Spiritually, it can make you feel really disconnected from, like if you're a Christian believing in God, like all of those different things are all so affected by birth trauma and just trauma in general too. Um, so those are probably like the biggest ones that I have, is that lack of trust in themselves again, and nervous system dysregulation, really being scared of another birth, whether that be because they don't want to experience like episiotomy again, or like a fear that they're not going to be a good parent. There's a lot of different ways that it can manifest, and those are some of the biggest ones. But again, it can really be a variety of different things, depending on what, again, the person has been through and what their current situation looks like.
Yeah. So, how do you work with your clients to help them navigate through that?
Yeah, so I have this framework that we use, and I work primarily with Christian women, so it's all
Mm-hmm.
really based, like rooted in Jesus. And so the first thing that we do is we go back and like tell the entire story from start to finish. And for some women, that can be really challenging to do, but it is really powerful because I ask clarifying questions. I really help get their body back in that place using the different senses. And again, I ask different questions to help them get back in that place. And then from there, we move forward in the process of, like, again, because I work with Christian women, seeing Jesus in their story, and that's like a total game changer. And then from there, doing different forgiveness exercises for forgiving, not that women do anything wrong, but a lot of women feel like they do something wrong. So we do forgiveness exercises on forgiving yourself for anything that you may have done. Again, I'm not saying that anybody's in the wrong at all, but sometimes it feels like that. And until you acknowledge that, it can stay with you. Forgiving other people, whether that be like sometimes it's a mother in law, sometimes it's a doctor or a nurse, or even like a husband or partner. Um, and then again, in my case, forgiving God and like getting those frustrations out. And then we really start to work on nourishing our bodies because a lot of women are like chronically underfed, and in terms of like getting enough protein, enough fat, enough carbohydrates, enough sleep, like all of those different areas. Because especially if a woman has PTSD, PTSD is a literal brain injury, and so in order to heal that brain injury or prevent one from occurring, even, you need to nourish yourself really well. Like we need a ton of fat in order to heal that brain injury. And so that's, again, one of the biggest things is making sure that you are well nourished. Because obviously, if you just had a baby, you're probably going to be nursing or at least attempting to be nursing. So you have that tax on your body. Plus, you just had a baby that sucked out a ton of minerals and nutrients out of you. Plus, now you have to heal just in general. And then if you have trauma on top of that, your brain also needs to heal. So,
and that goes against everything that women have been marketed to about how we should be eating to look a certain way. Yes. So then we've got that going against us as well.
Yeah, and I actually have in my program like a body image thing that I have them go through, because so many moms, myself included, like I had an eating disorder for 5 years, so I get it, have struggles with what our bodies look like, especially during and after having a baby. And so really understanding that the way that we're going to look after we have kids might not be the same way that we look before we have kids, and helping them understand like that's okay. And by nourishing our bodies are really good, and they're going to do what they need to do in order to sustain our life, in order to sustain our kids' life. Like, so yeah, really just helping them to see the bigger picture. And the biggest thing is just validating what they went through, and just saying like, yeah, what happened to you was not good. You should not have had to go through that. And I'm really sorry.
Yeah. And so what have you experienced and noticed about your clients after having walked them through that process? Yeah. What gets to happen, or what do they get to feel after spending that time and energy into healing themselves and their stories?
Yes. So this is like so good, and I have like a big smile on my face, because this change can happen so fast if you are in the right environment. And if you, again, because I work with Christian women, inviting Jesus into this place. And so within like 1 or 2 exercises, typically things start to shift, because they then see themselves, first off, that they're not alone in what they went through. So even if they felt all alone, even if they were physically like by themselves, they have an understanding that they actually weren't alone. And then from there too, just helping them to really understand that their bodies are good, even though like the world and culture tells us that we're not good enough, we need to do this or do that or whatever. Just again, showing them that their bodies are good. And even if things didn't go the way that they wanted to, like it's okay. And so those are some of the biggest shifts in that they see within like the first week or 2, where again, they see that they were not alone, and they start to see that their bodies are good and that they did not do anything wrong. That's another really big one. And then by the end of, it's a 12-week program. By the end of it, they begin to feel more confident in themselves. So they will feel more confident to go into, if they're going to see a doctor, to go into the doctor and say like, I am declining X, Y, or Z, or I need more information on X, Y, or Z. So just confidence in expressing their voice, confidence in knowing that what happened wasn't their fault, having peace around what happened, and being able, one of the biggest things is being able to tell the story without getting emotional and without feeling the feelings anymore. So we don't negate it and say like it never happened, but we do exercises so that your body can then feel that it was safe, that it's okay to tell the story in a way that that is very authentic and true, but doesn't put you back in that place where you were before. So yeah, just a general understanding of peace, confidence, clarity, and just around the birth itself, and then even in the motherhood and womanhood moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you are now listening to this and you're like, wow, I for sure experienced birth trauma, this is definitely something that you deserve to work through with someone who is going to care for you and help you through it in a way that doesn't seem so I don't know, like intense or fast, you know, like you get to have things done at your own pace. If you are a Christian woman and you want to work with Brigid, please go check her out. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm mostly on Instagram at Brigid.Tebaldi. And then I have a website too. It's www.loretowellness.com, and that's spelled Loreto wellness. I'm sure you'll put it in the links below.
Yep.
And yeah, I would just love to connect with anybody who is even just like feeling that nudge of like, is that me? Like, is something wrong? Do I need this? I would just love to chat with you because so many women deserve this. And unfortunately, so many women have experienced struggles and do deserve to get the help in order to really like feel that peace and confidence in their womanhood.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show, Brigid. I love what you do, and I think that it's so necessary. And I really wish that, you know, I had that kind of support when I first had my son. Thankfully, I've worked through all of that. And again, like ladies, if you resonate with what she's sharing, you're like, I think that's what I went through. And it's impacting how you are experiencing your subsequent pregnancies, or even as you're navigating through motherhood, which is already a whole lot. Please reach out to Brigid and get the support that you need. Go follow her, go check out her stuff, have a chat with her. Okay. Like, as you can see, she's super nice and she wants nothing but the best for you. And that's all we have for today. If you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, say you've heard someone who's complained about something that's happened related to pregnancy or birth or even postpartum, please share this episode with them so that they know that they're not alone, that there are people out there who are ready to help them put that in their past and really reclaim their part of the story during that time. And if you love a show, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to this. And I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Thanks, Brigid.
Thank you so much.
Bye. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.